Hi everyone, it's Nisha Zachary here. Welcome to Permission to Lead. Today we have with us Twyla Clarke. Twyla is a self-love advocate, a mother, and an intuitive and spiritual life coach. She supports women to heal their past pain, trauma, and abuse, empowering them to step into their full power. When a woman steps into her power and becomes unstoppable, a shift happens on the earth and ignites the goddess core. Hi Twyla, thanks for joining us today.
Hey Nisha, how are you?
Wonderful, how are you doing?
I'm good, love.
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
A little bit about my story. Oh my. So I started because I was doing spiritual counseling before and doing a lot of spiritual guidance with women and cancer patients and helping them get through the hard stuff. And so it kind of just took its own shape. I didn't even realize what was really happening at the time. And I truly, because I was in corporate at the time, I never saw myself as like a spiritual teacher or someone out there, showing the world my spirituality in this way. Right. I was like, I'm a corporate girl, right? Like I deal with numbers, and so it was kind of shocking to me and how it all took shape because I really did not expect my life to be here and doing the type of work that I'm doing. But that being said, it's absolutely one of the most joyful things that I love doing it. And like I said in my bio is what I truly believe that when a woman steps into her power, when she steps into herself, when she steps into that unstoppable lifestyle, a shift truly does happen on the earth, and it really does ignite that goddess core of the earth. And it's so important for us to know who we are, to love ourselves, and to really be embodying of that woman that's been, sheltered or hiding away within us.
Right.
For me, guilt is, okay, well, first, let's talk about love. Because when we talk about love, then it helps us understand guilt. So for me, okay, love is that emotion that just multiplies. Right? Like, you have one child. Okay, for the moms out there, right? You have one child and you're like, oh, I just love you so much. I could never love another as much as I love you. Right? And then you have another baby. And then you find more love to give. You don't take it away. You just find more. Right? So love is an emotion that multiplies. Guilt is the exact same thing, but in the negative.
Oh, geez.
So guilt is that thing where you can feel guilty about something. It's like the little molehill that becomes a mountain. You can feel guilt about something, and then all of a sudden you keep talking yourself into it, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing and piling and piling and piling until your guilt is this big, huge thing that, just started out as like one little minuscule nothing. Right. Essentially. Right? And women know how to pile on guilt. Like, we are, like, when they say, like, amateur, novice, right? Like, we are the master.
Exactly. That's funny.
Yes. So that's why, for me, guilt is the worst thing that you could do. So in talking about forgiveness, it's so important because we shame and we guilt ourselves for things that have happened, for things that have taken place, for the way that we're feeling about things. And then it just multiplies. Yeah. And now that little pile of dust that was under that carpet is now a mountain that we're trying to avoid because of all of the guilt that we've put onto that encounter, that account. And for me, when I'm talking to, women about forgiveness, I always try to relate it to, you know, if you're driving in a car and someone cuts you off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all upset and whatever, you're mad, you're angry, you're yelling, but that person is just going on about their day, right?
Right. They have no
So when
clue.
you think about it, and they have no clue. They're like, oh, hey, I'm just driving, right? Like, it's all good, right?
Yep.
But now you have like had this situation come up, and it's like, you know, you're feeling all of this anger, resentment, like whatever towards it, and the other person is just like whatever, like gone about their merry way, right? So that's kind of why forgiveness to me is so important, because that's essentially what it is. And that's why it's so important for you to forgive, because you're just holding on to the weight of everything. Meanwhile, that person has already like continued on with their merry life.
That makes sense. Okay, so take us to a moment that was like a pivot point for you where you knew that you had to make a change or you had to just give up and find something else.
Yeah, absolutely. So my moment was probably about 2 to 3 years ago. And basically what had happened is I was in a dark place for a long time, and that dark place just continued to get darker.
Yep.
And it was like I was being sucked down a sinkhole, and it just kept getting worse. And no matter what I tried, no matter what I was doing, I couldn't keep my head above water.
Right.
And so I had kids at that point, and it was like, okay, what do I do here? Right? That's what it became for me. It became I don't want to be a mom that my kids grow up with, that's angry, that's frustrated, that's hurt,
Right.
that's sad all the time. You know, I wanted to heal. I didn't want to be a light switch anymore. You know, that's what I felt like. Because it was like 1 minute I was happy, and the next minute it was like I could just flip like a switch. And so I didn't want my kids growing up with that. I wanted my kids to see a woman that, yeah, may have had her struggles, may have been through, you know, the worst, but I wanted them to see me come out of it. And I wanted them to know that, hey, like my mom went through all of this, and as hard as it was, she decided to heal.
Exactly. So what was your first step?
First step for me is being aware that there's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Which most people aren't, because they've been living in it so long.
Exactly. Right? And that's the thing. We carry our hurt like a comfort blanket.
Yeah.
We carry it around with us because we've become so accustomed to it, right? We've become so accustomed to knowing what it feels like to be in pain all the time, to be hurting all the time, to be sad, to be depressed. So we don't know anything else. So we just carry it, right? It's like, hey, got my blanket with me, right? And we just carry it around.
Right.
So the first step for me is to be aware that there's a problem, because for a long time, I didn't know that there was a problem. I knew that I was moody, and I knew that, you know, I was angry, and I knew that I was hurt and I was sad, but I didn't know there was a problem. Does that make sense?
Yep. Sure.
Right? So that's the first step for me, is being aware that there's an actual problem. So because when you're aware that there's a problem, well, now you know you need to fix it. Or now you know that you don't need to fix it, and you can just keep doing what you're doing. Right?
Right.
And then that's where the choice comes in, because it becomes a choice of, do I want to continue living my life in this misery?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want to go for better? Right. Even if you don't know what better is. And that's the big thing, right? Is because so many times, especially when it's been a long time that we've been living in this agony and this pain and this misery, we don't know that there's another way, right? We just hold on to like a little bit of hope.
Exactly. In
that
the midst of our comfort.
exactly, right? That there is better out there, that there's something, that there's, so we hold on to that. So that's what it became for me. It became searching for something I didn't know existed.
Wow.
And I don't want the listeners to, get the misconception that, I wasn't happy or I didn't know how to be happy. I did. Because there was times and moments where I was very happy.
Right.
But they were only for a moment. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
So it's not that I was in this misery all the time. I could find joy and I could find comfort, but it was only for a moment.
Okay.
So for me, it was holding on to a hope that there was something that could last longer than a moment.
Ah, gotcha. So let me ask you this. Then what does forgiveness have to do with achieving your dream?
Because I truly believe that in order to step into that woman who is meant to achieve those dreams and those aspirations and those goals, there has to be a process. Because if you're holding on to all of the hurt and all of the pain of your past, then, 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, whatever, something's going to come up and trigger those past things, right? So if you haven't healed it, then you're basically waiting for a bomb to drop. You're basically waiting for something to happen that's going to trigger those emotions.
Right.
And that's why forgiveness, and more than that, healing is so important. It's so important to forgive and to heal. And so I just last week, a woman asked me, she's like, is it possible to even heal from this stuff? And I was like, absolutely, because I'm an example. I didn't know that it was possible to heal.
Right.
I was just holding on to this little strand of hope that I had, that something out there was going to change and something out there was going to, click and it was going to happen for me.
Right.
So that's the thing about it is, is really grabbing hold and knowing that, yes, healing is possible. Forgiveness is possible. It's not going to be easy, especially if you've been dealing with this stuff for like 10 plus years. It's not going to be easy, but it will be worth it. And it's possible.
Okay, so what was the biggest thing that was holding you back from achieving your dream?
My biggest thing would probably be learning to love myself again.
What does that mean?
So for me, I'm an advocate of self-love because I truly believe it's important. Now, I'm not talking about the surface, I love myself, stuff.
Right.
I'm talking about the hard stuff. I'm talking about loving yourself when it's hard. I'm talking about loving yourself when it's easy. Right? Because loving yourself when it's hard, loving yourself through your flaws, loving yourself through your hurt and through your pain, that's a process, but it's a process that's worth it. So for me, it was learning how to love myself again, and not just the airy-fairy love, but the actual real love, learning to love myself in all of my moments, light and dark.
Nice. So what's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh boy. Oh, there's been so many. The best advice I've ever received was when my mentor looked at me and probably told me that it was possible. And that when I was going through my hardest moments, and like when I say my hardest moments, like I mean my hardest moments, like when the healing was underway and it was easier to stay on the floor than pick myself up.
Right.
Those moments when he looked at me and said that I was on the right track and that it wasn't going to be easy, but it was going to happen.
I like that. Not easy, but it is possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where it started for me, you know, and that's when I started adopting that message. You know, it's not going to be easy, especially when you're looking at stuff that, you know, my stuff that I was holding on to was like 20 plus years, right? That I had learned to live with, you know, and that's the thing. That's what we learn how to do. We don't learn how to heal. We learn how to live with.
Right.
Right? So, you know, I will never knock another profession, but there's certain professions out there that teach us how to put one foot in front of the other, right? How to pick ourselves up off the floor.
Yeah.
But they don't help us heal. They just teach us how to learn to live with the hurt, live with the pain, live with the anger.
So true.
Right?
So.
And then teach us how to numb it. Right? They don't teach us how to feel through it and heal or release it. They teach us how to numb it, how to not feel anymore. Right? So it's about going from that place. And I absolutely love those professions because guess what? We all need to learn how to put one foot in front of the other again. We all need to learn how to pick ourselves up off the floor. So that's absolutely important. But that being said, it's also important for the second part to come in. And that's where the healing begins and the forgiveness starts.
Nice. Okay. So what's one personal habit that you do daily that keeps you on track and leads to your success?
My self-care.
So what do you do for self-care?
Oh my gosh, I do a number of things. So my self-care is my daily habit. Let's put it that way. What I do for self-care varies every day.
Okay.
So, and for me, self-care is listening and being in tune with my body. For a long time, I wasn't.
Okay.
And for a long time, us women aren't in tune with our bodies. We don't know what our bodies require.
Right.
Because it's not something that's taught to us. It's not something that we're taught to learn. Right? So for me, going through the process of self-love and self-worth was really learning what my body required in those moments.
Okay.
So one of my greatest self-care practices is taking a nap and sleeping.
Okay.
I absolutely love to nap. Like,
okay. I have
one
to ask.
of my greatest things.
You have how many kids?
5 children, 4 living with me.
When do you get a nap? Please tell me.
So I will say this. So my kids range from 14, 11, 8, 3, and 6 months.
Again, when do you sleep?
When do I sleep? I know. It's, you know what? I will say this. I have an absolutely amazing support system around me. So my husband is amazing. Like, I wouldn't be able to function without him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there is times where he's like, you know, you guys leave your mom alone. She needs to rest. My older ones as well, they will, you know, help out. They will, you know, keep the 3-year-old occupied if I need to take a nap, you know. So it's, for me, napping is one of those things that my body requires, especially because of the spiritual work that I do.
Right.
It's like when I am, you know, doing readings or doing coaching or doing healings, any of those things, they take my energy.
Right.
And it's not to say they take my energy in a bad or negative way, but it's like when you're channeling constantly, or even maybe not constantly, but for a good portion of the day, it's a lot of energy that you're dealing with.
Right.
So it's like my energy will just get zapped and it's like, boom, I'm out almost.
Just done.
Gone. It's kind of funny sometimes because there is times where it's like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit tired. And then I'll like wake up like 20 minutes later and I'm like, oh, I guess I fell asleep.
That's one way to get a nap.
Exactly. So yeah, so it's funny, but yeah, so I have an amazing support system. My mom and my mom-in-law, they help out a lot. I truly believe, and this is something that is my belief. So I truly believe that if your body is calling for something, the universe has already set it into motion.
Oh.
So the support is there for you. You just maybe need to find it. Because maybe it's not where you expect it to be, but it's there because the universe has already set it in motion because they know that you need it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because there is no lack in the universe. The universe is absolutely abundant at all times, right? There's not one time when it's abundant and one time when it's lacking. It's never lacking. It's always abundant. So if there's something that your body requires, it's out there. You just got to find it. So for me, I always tell other moms, because I deal with moms where they're like, oh, well, it's because you have the best husband. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But so do you, right? Maybe you just need to vocalize your needs a little bit more. Because us as women, right, we tend to think that everybody knows what we need without us saying it, right?
That's true.
Men don't operate that way, ladies. This is my best piece of advice I could ever give you. Men don't operate the way that we do. They don't know what we need unless we tell them.
Right.
Right? So for years, I was going without that support because my husband didn't know that I needed it. Right? Because he just figured, well, if she needs it, she'll tell me that she needs it. He used to take naps. I didn't. Right? Because he was telling me I need a nap.
Wow.
Right? And I was like, yeah, go do that. Right? But women, we expect it. Right?
Yes. Oh, I so get it. I so do.
Right? Until we start vocalizing our needs and really speaking out on what it is that we require, only then will we get the support that we're needing.
Right.
As soon as I had the conversation with my husband and I was like, babe, I need a nap. He was like, so go and take one. Right?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, he's like, what's stopping you? Like, just go do it. You know? But I didn't know that that was available to me.
Right.
So until we start vocalizing what it is that we need, what it is that we need time for, what it is that we need, you know, support in mentally, spiritually, physically, right? Emotionally, until we start vocalizing those things, only then can we receive the support.
Right.
You know, it's asking, you shall receive, right? Once you ask, when shall you receive? If you don't ask, nobody knows that you need it. Right?
That's true.
Like on their merry way, like Twyla's got it, it's okay. Like look at Twyla, like holy shit, like she's sorry.
You're fine.
Look at Twyla, she's out there doing everything. You know, she's out there doing all this stuff. Well, no, it's because I have an amazing support system around me that I have vocalized to what my needs are, what it is that I require, so I can be so visible in the world. So I can be so out there appearing to do all these things.
I love it. So get support. So what is your final piece of advice for all of those listening?
Okay, so my final piece of advice would be, that as women, we need to know our worth. And not only know our worth, it's not about, knowing it. It's not about, how can I put this? It's not about, being like, oh, I'm worth more than that. Or, when something happens or whatever, and you get all angry and you get in your ego and whatever, and you're like, I'm worth more than that, or I deserve better or whatever.
Right.
My biggest piece of advice would be to come out of the ego of knowing your worth and get into the feeling of actually knowing your worth. Does that make sense? Because our ego is a thing that's there to serve and protect us. That's what I say. Our ego's like the police. They're there to keep us safe.
Right.
Right? There's a great acronym of ego called edging God out. But to me, our ego is there to keep us safe. It's there to keep us in our boundaries. It's there to keep us, in our comfort zone.
Yep.
It's time for us to step out of our comfort zone, because once we start stepping out of our comfort zone is when we start stepping into that woman, because she doesn't live in a comfort zone. If you feel into that woman that's hiding inside of you, I can guarantee 99.9% of women, if not 100% of them, will say that she doesn't live in her comfort zone. She's out there doing whatever it is that she wants to do. She's out there living unapologetically. She's out there living on her own terms.
I like that. Not waiting on permission.
So, exactly. So for us, it's to come out of that ego mentality of I'm worth it, I deserve better, and getting in your angry space, but coming out of that and actually being like, no, hold on a second. I'm worth more than that. I deserve better than that.
Right.
Right? Because when you come out of that and you step into your actual worth is where you start making shifts happen and where you start making change happen. When you actually believe and know that you're worth more is when a shift truly happens, because that's when you stop compromising and you stop settling for whatever it is that people are willing to give you. That's when you start demanding more.
Yes.
Because the woman that's hiding inside of you, she doesn't settle. I can guarantee you she's not settling. Right? She demands her worth.
I love that. Don't settle.
Don't settle. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Okay. So what is the free gift that you have for our listeners today?
Awesome. So the free gift that I have for the listeners is a meditation / visualization. And what it is, it's a visualization of you connecting to that woman that's inside of you, seeing her, feeling her, knowing who she is, right? And I will even create a workbook for you that you can use to go through that process and to answer some questions to get to know who she is.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then with you, so I know.
And then a meditation to connect to that woman on a daily basis.
Oh, I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so how can everybody get in touch with you?
Oh boy. Okay, so I am at Twyla Clarke. Twyla Clarke The Change is my business page on Facebook. And my website is Twyla Clarke, so TWYLACLARKE.com. So that's where I am, and that's how everybody can find me.
All right. So the links to the free gift and all of your social media accounts and your website will be under this video. You guys go check Twyla out, get your free gift, get your meditation, and connect to that woman so that you can allow yourself permission to go through the rest of this. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Twyla, for being here with me. I so appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on this summit, Nisha. It has been an honor speaking with you, and the caliber of women that are a part of this summit. It is amazing, amazing what you are creating here, and I am just so honored to be a part of that creation process, and that you would think of me is an honor to be a part of this. So I am so thankful. I'm full of so much gratitude for you and for all of the women on this summit who have given themselves permission to leap. Because let's leap, baby.
All right, Twyla, I will talk to you later.
Okay, bye, love.
Bye.